What is up, guys? In today's video we're going to be talking about the animals in chapter 3 season 3 and how you can ride them and how best to take advantage of them in zero build, because I see a lot of people talking about how they're just a meme or they're just trolly or they're just like kind of for jokes, and that is certainly not the case. They are definitely very effective in the zero build mode, and they've become like part of my favorite way to play the game. If you guys do enjoy this video or find it helpful and informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you would like to see more, and comment down below if this video has changed your opinion on animals and if you're going to start using them more in Fortnite. And I've already said that this video is going to focus more on zero builds. They are helpful in normal Fortnite. They're just not as helpful for fighting in normal Fortnite because of how building works. Like, you can use them for mobility, and that's great, and they work wonderfully for that. But in zero build, you can actually really use them effectively in fights that I just really don't think would work out in the build mode because of how building changes the game and how much the game revolves around building. So, yeah, that is why this video is going to be more about zero build. The first thing that animals are good for, and this is true in both modes, is that you can get around the map faster. And like, obviously this is helpful if you want to find people and like get higher kill games. But even if you aren't trying to get high kill games, the faster you can travel around the map and traverse like open areas or rotate around like dead side of zone if you are trying to avoid conflict, just the faster you can travel around the map, the better, regardless of what your objective is. I use it for finding people, but even if you just want to get from one side of zone to the other, the faster you can do that, the better, because you're going to be exposed for less time. So regardless of how you play, it's really good mobility, and it's really like easy to find mobility, and it is decently reliable mobility. Whereas like cars, you have to worry about gas, you have to worry about the tires getting popped, you have to worry about potentially using off-road tires instead of the normal tires if you want to go off-road. Going uphill can be difficult in the car. Going around obstacles can be difficult in the car. The animals handle way better. They have a much better turning radius. You can just like turn on a dime. Going uphill or downhill doesn't really matter. And whether you're on a road or off-road also doesn't matter. So you can take more creative routes with the animals, and you don't have, there's just like far less to worry about. They do have a stamina bar, but I've found that you can just run them to the point where they run out of stamina, and you will have been able to use them for a really long time. And if you have used a decent amount of stamina from your animal, odds are you'll encounter another one in the wild, and then you can just full swap them. So yeah, the animals are great mobility for that regard. But also, when it comes to zero build, they are really helpful in fights. Just the sideways strafe you can get while on an animal is really fast and effective. It's not quite as good as like the jetpack sideways strafe was, but if you're in a medium range fight and you want to like push the person, pushing them while on an animal and auging them the entire time, or shooting them with your assault rifle or your SMG the entire time, is way more effective than just sprinting as your character. So not only do you have much faster mobility while you're on an animal when you're just riding around the map, using it in fights is also really effective because you can move so much faster than what people are typically capable of, like, are used to tracking, and you could just oftentimes outstrafe people's aim assist, or not their aim assist, but their sensitivity. And the same was true of the jetpack. A lot of like newer players or lesser experienced players are playing on default sensitivity, and even a lot of very good players play on a really low ADS sense, like I do as well. And the animal can just outstrafe that sometimes really easily, making it very hard for the opponent to hit you. And this makes it where it's hard for them to hit you. You can still easily hit them, and you're putting pressure on them because you can be pushing them in the same time. And I personally don't have the most difficulty shooting somebody off an animal. I have seen people say it's like hard for them to shoot the person rather than the animal. But I think it's decently easy to shoot either one depending on what you want. But some people do have difficulty shooting people off an animal, and that can be used to your advantage. You know, if you make the fight something that the opponent doesn't like, or like somewhat messy for the opponent, or they have things to respond to that they're not used to responding to, just putting that pressure on them with the animal is really nice. So the sideways strafe ability of the animal is really good. And another thing that's really good about the animal is the jump. If you double jump off the animal, your character goes like straight up and you go decently high. And I feel like this can be really effective in close range fights if you push somebody with the animal. So like, let's say you were auging them at medium range. You've done a decent amount of damage to them as you're pushing them, and then you switch to your SMG when you get close, and then when you get really close, you jump off the animal and switch to your shotgun, pump them, and they're dead. There's not really much they can do. It just makes the fight really chaotic for the person because they do not know what time that you're just going to jump off your animal and go straight vertical, but you do, and you could use that to your advantage so much because you're anticipating it, you're ready to aim based off the fact that you're going super high, whereas the opponent is completely getting caught off guard by that, and you were already pushing them, which puts pressure on them. You were probably already doing damage to them because the spray weapons are so effective in Chapter 3. that just the quick jump up in close range fights is like one of the easiest way to get kills. Even whether or not the player is good, bad, doesn't matter. It's very hard for someone to deal with their opponent just going like 15 feet in the air randomly with no warning. Even with shockwaves, it can be awkward, and shockwaves have a decent amount of warning because it makes noise. You have to throw it at the ground. They're set up for it. The animal, just like in an instant, you can go straight vertical and completely catch your opponent off guard. And this can even be good for like positioning and fights, especially if you're playing the team game modes. If they're distracted on your teammates, you can make a play with the animal, or maybe they'll focus on you instead of your teammates. There's just so much you could do with the animal because of the added mobility it provides you. And a lot of that same mobility is what people liked about the jetpack. It doesn't have as much upward vertical mobility as the jetpack had, but a lot of the horizontal and just like positioning advantages that jetpacks gave you, you can also get with the animal. And that is why, one of the reasons why they're incredibly effective. Another thing the animal can do is it can attack people for you. This is mainly going to be relevant in those close range fights. Like you push them with your SMG, you spray them, you jump off, switch to your shotgun, pump them. Now your animal is attacking them as well. And it's not like the animal really does that much damage. But it makes the situation really chaotic for them in so many ways. Like I've talked about it several times in this video. But you just make the fight really awkward and really difficult for your opponent. You want the fight to be as annoying for them as possible, and the animals play into that, and the animals attacking them can play into that. It's not something I would really rely on. Like whenever I've seen people bring this up, like, yeah, sure, the animals can attack people, but how much is that really going to matter? I don't think it matters that much, but it is worth noting. It's not the biggest thing, but it can create some situations where it's hard for your opponent to like really respond to what's going on. I've even had the animal like kind of body block me sometimes because it's running at them. If we're in like somewhat of a like close medium range fight, and my animal is running at them, it can like sometimes block their bullets and make the opponent miss a few shots. And that's another advantage that's in your camp. And the more advantages or the more things that you have going right for you in a fight and the opponent has things not going right for them, the better it's going to be. One downside of the animal is that it makes a decent amount of noise. It's not as much as cars, but a lot of times people are going to know where you are because of it. Like people know the sound that the animals make. And then another thing I've seen people say, and I don't think this negative really applies to me personally, but if you're trying to hide in like a bush or something, the animal can give away your location. But I'm not someone who really hides that frequently. That's not a way I like to play the game. So that's not really a negative that I have to deal with. But if you are someone who likes to hide a bunch, you might just want to keep that in mind, that there are times where the animal can give away your location. Another thing, I just remembered this randomly, the animals can knock people. So if you ram somebody with a boar, it will knock them. I'll have a clip right now where I knocked someone out of a bush with the boar. Maybe just go island or whatever, water area, and see. There's somebody in here. I heard him move. That guy's probably pissed, bro. I heard him move for a second, and then I just come running through the bush with my boar and then force him out of it. The one advantage he maybe could have had in the fight was just immediately taken away from him because my boar knocked him out of it. Animals are so good, bro. And it was just a great situation for me because I hate dealing with bush campers. And if you hate dealing with bush campers too, and you know for sure when somebody is camping in a bush, just ram them with a boar. They're going to get knocked out of that bush, and then you can fight them out in the open. And once again, you're forcing them to respond to a situation that's really awkward for them. So I would highly recommend using the animals in Season 3. They're great for mobility, but that mobility can also be really helpful in fights, and that's the thing that really makes a difference. If you were someone who took advantage of the jetpack strafe last season, the animal strafe is almost just as good. And it's easier to get than the jetpacks were because the jetpacks you had to go to set locations to find them. If you guys found this video helpful and informative, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, comment down below what you think of the animals, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.